today we will be discussing hazard risk mitigation and emergency response in the case of industries. We will be discussing in this topic under the following heads, that is the chemical or industrial disasters. What are major accidental hazard units? What is the regulatory framework and codes of practices in our country? What are the off-site and on-site recommended disaster risk reduction strategies? And then we will discuss a few process hazard analysis, that is a PHA tools, including the participatory rural appraisal. A chemical disaster crisis occurs when a hazardous chemical has been released and the release has the potential for harming and injuring population. Chemical releases may be unintentional, as in the case of a chemical industrial accident, or it may be intentional, as in the case of a terrorist attack or sabotage. Chemical incidents affect the community in a number of ways, including 1. The effect of the blast itself, then the effect of the industrial chemical fire, and the toxic effects of the hazardous chemicals that are released. Hazardous chemicals penetrate into the body, to the skin, eyes, lungs, or the digestive tract. Let us learn the levels of emergencies in chemical industrial disaster management. On the basis of magnitude of probable severity and level of control required, they are classified into the following levels. Level O or 0, that is, there is no disaster situation. This is the level at which surveillance, preparedness, and mitigation activities must be carried out. Level 1 is a district level disaster within the capabilities of the district administration to deal with. Level 2 is a state level disaster within the capabilities of the state government to deal with. Level 3 is a national level disaster requiring major direct intervention of the central government. How do disasters occur? It may be due to a disaster explosion in a plant handling or producing toxic material. It may be due to accidents in the storage facilities handling large and miscellaneous types of chemicals, or accidents during the hazardous material transportation from one site to another, inappropriate use of chemicals resulting in contamination of food stocks or the surroundings, or overdosing of agrochemicals. There may be inadequate waste management, such as dumping of toxic chemicals in an uncontrollable manner, waste management systems failure, or accidents in wastewater treatment plants. There may be technological failures in the plant safety design or plant components failure, or it can be in the case of natural hazards such as fire, flood, earthquakes, landslides, tsunami. There may be ignition and sabotage, or it may be a human fault. What are the types and categories of hazardous chemicals in the industries? They may be biotoxins, poisons that come from plants or animals, blister agents or vesicants. These are chemicals that severely blister the eyes, respiratory tract, the skin on contact. Then there can be blood agents, poisons that affect the body by being absorbed into the blood, or they may be the famous caustics or acids that burn or corrode the person's skin, eyes and mucous membranes. They may be choking agents. They may affect the lung or the pulmonary vessels. They may cause severe irritation or swelling of the respiratory tract, that is the nose, throat or the lungs. Then there can be incapacitating drugs that make people unable to think clearly or cause an altered state of consciousness. There can be long-acting anticoagulants, that is the poisons that prevent blood from clotting properly, and this may lead to uncontrolled bleeding. Then there can be metallic poisons or nerve agents. Nerve agents are highly poisonous chemicals which prevent the nervous system from working properly. Organic solvents are known to damage the tissues of living things by dissolving fats and oils. Common is the riot control agents or the tear gas, which is used by law enforcement agencies for crowd control or by individuals for protection. Toxic alcohols is known poisonous alcohols that can damage the heart, kidneys and nervous system. Let us see what are MAH units. As per the legislation and Ministry of Environment terminology, a major accident means an incident involving loss of life inside or outside the installation, or 10 or more injuries inside and or 1 or more injuries outside, or release of toxic chemicals or explosion, or fire or spillage of hazardous chemicals resulting in on-site or off-site emergencies or damage to equipment leading to stoppage of process or adverse effects to the environment. Major accident hazards, that is MAH installations, means isolated storage and industrial activity at a site handling including the transport of hazardous chemicals equal to or in excess of the threshold quantities specified in column 3 of schedule 2 and 3 respectively. In the schedules of chemicals as per Ministry of Environment and Forest, there are total 10 schedules prescribed by the Ministry of Environment and DGFASL. They are indicative criteria and list of chemicals, isolated storage at installations other than those covered by Schedule 4, list of hazardous chemicals for application of Rules 5 and 7 to 15, industrial activity, competent authority and their duties, information to be furnished regarding notification of a major accident, information to be furnished for the notification of sites, information to be furnished in a safety report, safety data sheet, and format for maintaining records of hazardous chemicals. The various acts covering the industry, important ones are the Explosives Act 1884, Petroleum Act 1934, Factories Act 1948, Insecticides Act 1968, Environment Protection Act 86, Motor Vehicles Act 88, Public Liability Insurance Act 91, and Disaster Management Act, that is 2005. So we have to see off-site as well as on-site chemical industrial emergencies. What is an off-site chemical industrial emergency? If the mishap or the accident is such that its effects inside the industry are uncontainable and it may go outside the industry premises, it is called as off-site emergency. If the effects are restricted to the industrial premises involving only the employees working in the industry and the assets inside the industry, it is called as on-site emergency. The emergency planning for mitigating chemical industrial disaster risk involves formulating a disaster risk reduction strategy and performing mock drills on the disaster management plan at least once in 6 months. The aim of this emergency planning is to regulate and contain the incident oblique accident, if possible, eliminate it. And second, to minimize the effects of this adverse event on the community, assets, and the environment. Why is this necessary? It is a community requirement. The community should not suffer due to the hazardous leaks from the industry or due to any other factors related to the industries within their vicinity. Second, it is a legislative necessity. The Manufacture, Storage and Import of Hazardous Chemical Rules 1989 and the Chemical Accidents Emergency Planning, Preparedness and Response Rules 1996 covered this legislation very well. Let us have a brief overview of these two legislations. The Manufacture, Storage and Import of Hazardous Chemical Rules 1989 identifies the hazards and lays down provisions for their control. It defines the MAH units via its Schedule 2 or 3 based on quantities of hazardous chemicals stored or handled at an industrial unit, hazard risk mitigation and emergency response. These rules provide for preparation of on-site and off-site disaster management plans, and it essentially establishes a three-tier control on industrial units of hazardous nature. The following diagrams will elucidate the classification of industrial units and control actions requiring responsibility. Schedule 5 assigns the responsibility of preparation of the off-site emergency plan of a district to the district collector of the district or the district disaster management authority, if such is explicitly designated by the state government. The Chief Inspector of Factories, appointed under the Factories Act 1948, is required to assist the district collector in the preparation of the off-site disaster management plan. The other authorities whose assistance can also be sought are the Chief Inspector of Dock Safety, appointed under the Dock Workers Act, Chief Inspector of Mines, Atomic Energy Regulatory Board, appointed under the Atomic Energy Act, and the Chief Controller of Explosives, appointed under the Indian Explosives Act and Rules 1983. The CA rules 1996 envisage a four-tier structure in which there is a central crisis group in the center, a state crisis group at the state level, a district crisis group at the district level, and a local crisis group at the level of the industry. The Disaster Management Act 2005 shall include events of forces of nature such as earthquake, floods, and tsunami, as well as events originating from activities of mankind, including industrial or chemical disasters. This envisages a three-tier structure, that is, the National Disaster Management Authority at the center, a State Disaster Management Authority at the state level, and a District Disaster Management Authority at the district level. The district collector, district magistrate, or the deputy commissioner, as the case may be, is declared as the ex officio chairman of the District Disaster Management Authority as per Section 25(2)(a) of the Act. Section 30 of this Act lists the power and functions of the district authority in the event of a disaster. The functions include planning for disaster management, taking appropriate measures for prevention of disaster, and ensuring preparedness for a disaster as well as for coordinating and implementing response in the event of a disaster. In the case of an on site emergency plan, the important things are first and foremost the leadership of the top bosses and the effective administration. Then the roles and responsibilities of the key personnel have to be defined clearly. The emergency action has to be prompt. Provision of light, power, and source of energy control has to be taken care of. Prompt medical care, including triaging and first aid. Communication within the organization, within the industry, and to outside if needed. Mutual aid between the parties involved. Good public relations. In the end, one has to protect the vital records and the event based records. Regular training of the staff as well as the community, and then the periodical revision of the plan based on the past experience. What is process hazard analysis? These are methods to systematically determine process hazards, that is, during the process in the industry. However, the subjectivity and experience level of PHA team members have a large impact on the effectiveness of the team. It is important to have worker representatives on the PHA teams because they play a crucial role due to their knowledge of the process facilities. If a process hazard analysis has been done and its recommendations are rejected, companies must document why they did not implement the recommendations. And the safety information contained in the PHA reports should be shared with all the employees, contractors, and communities who could benefit from receiving this information. Quantitative risk analysis or QRA is for the overall safety performance of a chemical process industry. The various steps are hazards identification, then the frequency analysis based on the past records and performances, and then hazards analysis, that is, identify how the hazard can cause damage to the property, to the industry, or to the community. And fourth step is the quantification of this risk. Based on the hazard identification, frequency analysis, and hazard analysis, one has to do a risk quantification and suggest measures to improve. We come to maximum credible accident analysis, that is MCAA. Principal to this concept is the characteristic of credibility of envisaged emergency scenarios, including the serious ones. It is based on the subjective judgment of the concerned analyst, and there may be a wide variation in the results of the studies focused on the same industrial unit by different analysts. HAZOP, that is the Hazard and Operability Analysis. It is a structured and systematic technique for identifying potential hazards in a system and identifying operability problems likely to lead to non-conforming products. It is based on a theory that assumes risk events are caused by deviations from design or operating intentions. Identification of such deviations is facilitated by using sets of guide words as a systematic list of deviation perspectives. It is a brainstorming technique and bottom up risk identification approach. Participatory rural appraisal. It is an exercise for communication and transfer of knowledge to mitigate the effects of chemical industrial disaster risk. Learning by doing and teamwork spirit of PRA requires transparent procedures. A series of open meetings are organized, including an initial open meet, a final meet, and a following meet. It is basically a participatory approach and very helpful. So, viewers, in short, we have tried to cover the important legislations which are covering the disaster preparedness of industries and the various methods and approaches that can be used by the industries to prepare themselves and decrease the effect of any disaster that may still happen. Thank you.